The Dallas Museum of Art is the civic museum for North Texas, I would say. So we take very seriously that role of being in communication with our communities, and I say that plural. We have really diverse collections. We're sitting here in the midst of sort of the middle of the 19th century in European painting and sculpture, but that's just one little slice of what the museum represents. We really take seriously our role as a teaching institution on many different levels, where we curators are teaching courses at universities, or we have, and I wish I could say the number off the top of my head, but of course I can't, but thousands and thousands of school children coming throughout the year. We have a huge number of just the public engaging in a myriad of programs. And I think that sense of layering, of reaching out to many different types of individuals and groups, families, students, little kids, adults, so that you'll find people here doing sketching in the galleries, or sitting right where we are listening to Baroque music, or doing yoga in the galleries. There's this sense of increasing, I think, confidence on the museum's part in opening up the doors, throwing the doors open, and embracing our role as a civic center. Maybe we are the replacement for what used to be kind of the piazza, the plaza, the place of meeting in the middle of a city. And we are in the middle of a city in the Arts District. By the end of 2009, we'll be part of a campus. And that's really how we see this, the Arts District finally coming to fruition and being completed and growing, that the visual arts will talk to the symphony, which has been our anchor, our other anchor at the end of the Arts District, but now completed with the Winspear Opera House and Performing Arts Center. It kind of allows our message to resonate in more important ways, in kind of an interdisciplinary fashion with the other arts, and we really stress that in terms of our programming. In 2003, the museum celebrated its 100th anniversary, which was actually a kind of important milestone. I think it prompted us as a staff to sort of take stock and kind of reinvigorate how we approached our work. That history is rather important, that urbanistic issue, because that happens to be a subject that I think is really critical to the future of Dallas in terms of the reinvigoration of the downtown with culture, with places to live and shop and walk. Dallas will rediscover the fact that they can walk 10 minutes because we will have an inviting urban environment in which to do that. So somehow I think that's sort of part of maybe my passion about the DMA and its function in the city. Oh, well, that's ancient history. But I suppose it was in college when I flopped around thinking at first I was going to be an English major, and I think butted heads with one professor who I sort of went off in a huff, and then I was going to be a French major, and at a certain point a little light bulb went off, and I thought, and actually my French is excellent, but a little light bulb went off, and I thought, your French is never going to be as good as a French person's. There was sort of this sense of also having been, I suppose, as a kid, through members of my family, I have a much older brother who's an architect, and his wife is from Europe, and so I think the interest in language and culture and art and the arts in a broad sense was percolating somewhere there. And art history I found to be the ideal subject or methodology or approach, because it combines everything. You have to know languages, and it's about art, but it's art in context, so you have to know history, and you have to know about, especially if you work in a museum, which is probably the next part of my chapter, you're interested in the materiality, you're interested in how artists work and what things are made of and whether they're fragile or not. So it's so varied that it's actually it appeals to somebody who likes to look at like a big picture rather than at something really limited. It's about our cultural history. Our African collections, our pre-Columbian collections. At a certain point must have been in the mid-'80s, and prior to that we had sort of had a collecting strategy of never starting to embark in the realm of decorative arts. But then the Bybee collection of American furniture, that we turned totally in another direction. Just a few years ago, we were working with a wonderful donor within the community, Michael L. Rosenberg, who is subsequently deceased, but through his passion about French 18th century painting, we have a beautiful addition to the European holdings. That diversity, arts of the Americas, meaning pre-Columbian, colonial, Spanish and British colonial, 19th century painting, the icebergs by Church, it's one of our great icons, you can't miss that. And then American modernism, arts of South Asia, Africa, Oceania, and Indonesia. Our Indonesian collection, through the passion of one donor, has grown until it's one of the best collections of Indonesian art in this country. Look at the Mondrians, because outside of the Museum of Modern Art in New York, it's one of the most important collections of Piet Mondrian, one of the great geometric abstract artists of the 20th century, and we have a great panoply of his works. And that's due to the collectors Jim and Lillian Clark, who in the 60s and 70s just went into a state of obsession, the way collectors do, and they just loved that early 20th century modernism. So in a sense, when you walk around the museum, you can talk in art historical terms, from Impressionism to Post-Impressionism to Cubism, all those isms. Or you can also walk through here, and if you look at labels, curators are always looking at labels, and I don't mean to distract yourself reading labels rather than looking at the paintings or sculpture, but there also are the stories of the community, of the people who felt it was so important to their city and to the people to make sure that these groups of works of art were available. And then there's this, I guess there are two other parts of this I don't want to leave out. One is on the third floor, and it was added just as the first phase of the building was being completed. There was this gift by Emery and Wendy Reeves, and it's one among our most popular little corners of the museum. We see their beautiful Impressionist and Post-Impressionist paintings and wonderful collections of Chinese export porcelain and silver, but it's shown in replicas of the rooms of their villa in the south of France. So you get a sense of how that couple lived. I would be totally remiss if I didn't point to the fact that we have a really, really vibrant program in contemporary art, so that our exhibitions, our acquisitions in the realm of arts of today is, I think, world class. And again, there has been a lot of engagement on the part of donors and collectors in the community who feel passionate about art of today. You can come here and just decide, I want to live in the realm of 20th century European art for that day. Or you can be a wanderer and you can just wander through continents and epochs and different cultures. You can be very specific and go off and find one work of art. So I love that diversity, and I think it's a huge resource, and we love it.